From a flicker of candlelight in 1789 to the glare of modern screens in the West Wing, every president has held the pen. Executive orders not passed by Congress, but etched into law by command. Some shaped history. Some sparked controversy. Others were forgotten. Until now. This is where we break them down. Every signature, every shift in power, every consequence still felt today. From Washington to Biden, welcome to Executive Order Watch.
Democracy, we live for it. For democracy, we fight for it. For democracy, we've died for it. And for democracy, we watch it. This is Executive Order.
That was a year where we faced tough truths and made bold choices. By then, I was deep into my first term as president. The campaign was long over, and the easy slogans had given way to the hard work of governing. And let me tell you, governing in 1994 wasn't easy. We were still cleaning up from the economic drift of the 80s, trying to reform a healthcare system that had left millions behind, trying to bring down a violent crime wave that had plagued communities for too long, urban and rural alike. We passed the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act that year, at the time the largest crime bill in American history. We poured federal dollars into more police officers, community programs, and resources to tackle assault weapons and domestic violence. We believed we could make our streets safer without giving up on fairness or second chances. 1994 was also the year we took on trade and global competitiveness. We pushed forward with NAFTA, setting the groundwork for an integrated North American economy. Some said we were giving too much away. Others said we weren't going far enough. But I believed, and still believe, that America does best when we're leading the global stage, not retreating from it. That year also tested our will internationally. In Haiti, we faced a crisis of democracy, and I made the decision to deploy U.S. troops, not to conquer, but to restore a legitimately elected government. We also saw the devastating effects of genocide in Rwanda, and though we acted late, we learned that inaction has a cost too. Meanwhile, back at home, something else was brewing. The political tides were shifting. 1994 saw a Republican wave crash into Congress. The contract with America flipped the House for the first time in 4 decades. And I'll be honest, it forced us to adapt. I had to learn how to govern in a divided Washington, how to negotiate harder, how to defend progress even when the wind was against us. But I didn't back down, because leadership isn't just about power, it's about perseverance. It's about knowing when to push forward, when to compromise, and when to stand your ground. That was the spirit of 1994, a year of tension, yes, but also of transformation. Now soon, we'll take a closer look at the executive orders signed that year, many of which came in the quiet of the margins, but carried long echoes. Stick around, because up next, we're diving into the top 10 executive orders of 1994 and how those actions helped shape the legacy of a presidency still in motion. Executive Order 12,891 Advisory Committee on Human Radiation Experiments on January 15, 1994. Executive Order 12,892 Leadership and Coordination of Fair Housing in Federal Programs, affirmatively furthering fair housing on January 17, 1994. Executive Order 12,893 Principles for Federal Infrastructure Investments on January 26, 1994. Executive Order 12,894 North Pacific Marine Science Organization on January 26, 1994. Executive Order 12,895 North Pacific Anadromous Fish Commission on January 26, 1994. Executive Order 12,896 amending the Civil Service Rules concerning political activity on February 3, 1994. Executive Order 12,897 garnishment of federal employees' pay on February 3, 1994. Executive Order 12,898 federal actions to address environmental justice in minority populations and low-income populations on February 11, 1994. Executive Order 12,899 establishing an emergency board to investigate a dispute between the Long Island Railroad and certain of its employees represented by the United Transportation Union on February 15, 1994. Executive Order 12,900 Educational Excellence for Hispanic Americans on February 22, 1994. Executive Order 12,901 Identification of Trade Expansion Priorities on March 2, 1994. Executive Order 12,902 Energy Efficiency and Water Conservation at Federal Facilities on March 8, 1994. Executive Order 12,903 Nuclear Cooperation with Euratom on March 9, 1994. Executive Order 12,904 Commission for Environmental Cooperation, Commission for Labor Cooperation, Border Environment Cooperation Commission, and North American Development Bank on March 16, 1994. Executive Order 12,905 Trade and Environment Policy Advisory Committee on March 25, 1994. Executive Order 12,906 Coordinating Geographic Data Acquisition and Access, the National Spatial Data Infrastructure on April 11, 1994. Executive Order 12,907 amending Executive Order number 12,882 on April 14, 1994. Executive Order 12,908 Order of Succession of Officers to act as Secretary of the Army on April 22, 1994. Executive Order 12,909 Order of Succession of Officers to act as Secretary of the Air Force on April 22, 1994. Executive Order 12,910 providing for the closing of government departments and agencies on April 27, 1994. Executive Order 12,911 seal for the Office of National Drug Control Policy on April 25, 1994. Executive Order 12,912 amendment to Executive Order number 12,878 on April 29, 1994. Executive Order 12,913 revocation of Executive Order No. 12,582 on May 2nd, 1994. Executive Order 12,914 prohibiting certain transactions with respect to Haiti on May 7th, 1994. Executive Order 12,915 federal implementation of the North American Agreement on Environmental Cooperation on May 13th, 1994. Executive Order 12,916 implementation of the Border Environment Cooperation Commission and the North American Development Bank on May 13, 1994. Executive Order 12,917 prohibiting certain transactions with respect to Haiti on May 21, 1994. Executive Order 12,918 prohibiting certain transactions with respect to Rwanda and delegating authority with respect to other United Nations arms embargoes on May 26, 1994. Executive Order 12,919 National Defense Industrial Resources Preparedness on June 3, 1994. Executive Order 12,920 prohibiting certain transactions with respect to Haiti on June 10, 1994. Executive Order 12,921 amendment to Executive Order Num 12,864 on June 13, 1994. Executive Order 12,922 blocking property of certain Haitian nationals on June 21st, 1994. Executive Order 12,923 continuation of export control regulations on June 30th, 1994. Executive Order 12,924 continuation of export control regulations on August 19, 1994. Executive Order 12,925 establishing an emergency board to investigate a dispute between the Soo Line Railroad Company and certain of its employees represented by the United Transportation Union on August 29, 1994. Executive Order 12,926, implementation of the National Voter Registration Act of 1993 on September 12, 1994. Executive Order 12,927, ordering the selected reserve of the armed forces to active duty on September 15, 1994. Executive Order 12,928, promoting procurement with small businesses owned and controlled by socially and economically disadvantaged individuals, historically black colleges and universities, and minority institutions on September 16, 1994. Executive Order 12,929, delegation of authority regarding the naval, petroleum, and oil shale reserves on September 29, 1994. Executive Order 12,930, measures to restrict the participation by United States persons in weapons proliferation activities on September 29, 1994. Executive Order 12,931, federal procurement reform on October 13, 1994. Executive Order 12,932, termination of emergency with respect to Haiti on October 14, 1994. Executive Order 12,933, non-displacement of qualified workers under certain contracts on October 20th, 1994. Executive Order 12,934, blocking property and additional measures with respect to the Bosnian Serb-controlled areas of the Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina on October 25th, 1994. Executive Order 12,935, amending Executive Order Number 11,157 as it relates to the definition of field duty on October 28, 1994. Executive Order 12,936, amendments to the Manual for Courts Martial, United States, 1984, on November 10, 1994. Executive Order 12,937, declassification of selected records within the National Archives of the United States on November 10, 1994. Executive Order 12,938, proliferation of weapons of mass destruction on November 14, 1994. Executive Order 12,939, expedited naturalization of aliens and non-citizen nationals who served in an active duty status during the Persian Gulf conflict on November 22, 1994. Executive Order 12,940, amendment to Civil Service Rule 6 on November 28, 1994. Executive Order 12,941, seismic safety of existing federally owned or leased buildings on December 1st, 1994. Executive Order 12,942, addition to Level 5 of the Executive Schedule Commissioner, Administration for Native Americans on December 12, 1994. Executive Order 12,943, further amendment to Executive Order Number 11,755 on December 13, 1994. Executive Order 12,944, adjustments of certain rates of pay and allowances on December 28, 1994. My fellow Americans.
Pauline's
As we look
Pizza,
back,
where we deliver happiness one slice at a time. What's your craving today?
Yeah, hi. Is Seymour there?
Oh, Seymour. I think he might be busy making our special pies. But hey, why not swing by the pizzeria? We've got a pie with your name on it. Anything else I can help you with?
I was looking for Seymour Butts.
Ah, I see. Well, if you're looking for Seymour Butts, he might be hiding behind a pepperoni slice. Anything else I can do for you today?
No, that's it.
Hi, I'm Terrence, a marketing professional with a passion for helping your business grow smarter and faster. Here at DaBomb Digital Media, based right here in Atlanta, Georgia, we specialize in bringing your vision to life. Whether you're launching your first website or reimagining your entire digital presence, we've got you covered. From modern website design and search engine optimization to setting up your own AI-powered agency tools, we deliver innovative solutions that keep you ahead of the curve. Ready to unlock your business's full potential? Let's build something remarkable together. For more information, visit our YouTube channel. Just search DaBomb Digital Media on YouTube and start exploring tips, success stories, and everything you need to elevate your brand.
My fellow Americans.
As we look back on the year 1994, we see a pivotal moment in our country's trajectory, a time of both promise and peril. President Bill Clinton was just over a year into his first term. The Cold War was behind us, but the challenges of a new world order had begun to emerge. From economic transformation and environmental policy to racial justice and military readiness, the executive orders issued by President Clinton in 1994 weren't just about managing the present. They were aimed at reshaping the foundation of governance itself. Let me be clear. Executive orders don't just steer the ship of state. They build its hull, chart its course, and sometimes repair what's been broken. And in 1994, President Clinton signed 54 executive orders, some technical, some symbolic, but many of them bold. Let's start with the big picture. In 1994, the world watched Rwanda descend into genocide, and Clinton responded with EO 12918, targeting arms embargoes, a limited but significant moral stand that reflected America's slow reckoning with humanitarian crises. The Balkans, too, were boiling, and EO 12934 aimed to block property and apply pressure on Bosnian Serb-controlled areas, laying groundwork for later NATO intervention. On the home front, Clinton tackled environmental justice with EO 12898, a groundbreaking move that recognized the disproportionate environmental burden on minority and low-income communities. This order marked the first time the federal government formally acknowledged environmental racism, something we continue to fight against today in places like Flint, Michigan, and parts of the Gulf Coast. Clinton also advanced civil rights through EO 12900, establishing educational excellence for Hispanic Americans. In a year where anti-immigrant sentiment was rising, including California's infamous Proposition 187, this order served as a counterbalance and reaffirmed the importance of diversity and access in education. From a military and industrial standpoint, Clinton issued EO 12919, which consolidated and modernized a vast array of national defense, industrial preparedness policies, many of which dated back to World War II and the Cold War. That order remains part of the legal backbone for Emergency Production Authority, even today. Domestically, the President signed EO 12931 on federal procurement reform, which helped cut red tape and modernize how our government does business. And with EO 12906, Clinton established the National Spatial Data Infrastructure, setting the stage for modern mapping, disaster response, and geospatial technology we use today. Of course, not all executive actions landed perfectly. Clinton's economic and trade orders, like EO 12901, focused on trade expansion, drew criticism from some labor groups who felt globalization was already costing American jobs. And while efforts like EO 12913 revoked outdated sanctions, some critics feared a loss of leverage on human rights. But taken as a whole, Clinton's 1994 executive orders reflected a presidency trying to recalibrate American policy for the 21st century, inclusive, technologically savvy, responsive to global conflict, and increasingly aware of domestic inequality. Now, these executive actions didn't operate in a vacuum. They intersected with landmark events in the signing of the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, the launch of Operation Uphold Democracy in Haiti, the tragic Rwandan genocide, the Republican Revolution in Congress with the Contract with America, and of course the rise of the Internet economy. Each of these events shaped, and were shaped by, the decisions Clinton made through executive authority. Some of those decisions aged well. Others, they're still being debated on the Senate floor, in town halls, and at kitchen tables across the country. As we take a closer look, we'll unpack the top 10 executive orders of 1994, the ones that left a lasting imprint not only on that year, but on the decades that followed. Because if history teaches us anything, it's this. The smallest line of policy can ripple across generations, and as we're about to see, the devil is always in the details. Next up, the top 10 executive orders of 1994. My fellow Americans, when we look back at 1994, 30 years ago now, we see a year that stood at a crossroads. President Bill Clinton, in just his second year in office, was navigating a nation in transition, politically, economically, and socially. And in a world still finding its footing after the Cold War, America had to redefine its leadership. Much of that direction came not just through legislation, but through executive orders. That year alone, President Clinton signed over 50 executive orders, and each one tells a part of the story. Let's start with the impact on that year, 1994. Clinton's executive orders tackled a wide spectrum, from military logistics and procurement to civil rights and environmental justice. In February, EO 12898 addressed something long ignored by federal policy: the fact that pollution and environmental hazards disproportionately affected communities of color and the poor. It gave birth to the modern environmental justice movement inside government agencies. EO 12900, meanwhile, expanded educational opportunities for Hispanic Americans, a forward-leaning effort during a time of rising anti-immigrant rhetoric, particularly as California passed Proposition 187, aiming to deny public services to undocumented immigrants. When genocide erupted in Rwanda, killing hundreds of thousands, EO 12918 helped implement the U.S. response by reinforcing arms embargoes. It wasn't enough, and President Clinton would later admit the U.S. could have done more, but it marked a shift in recognizing that moral leadership had to accompany military and diplomatic power. And as violence raged in the Balkans, Clinton's EO 12934 was a clear statement. The U.S. would use economic pressure to weaken warlords and defend human rights, one of the early moves that led to eventual NATO intervention. On the home front, Clinton moved decisively to modernize how the government functioned. EO 12931 initiated a major procurement reform, cutting red tape and increasing efficiency across federal contracting. This effort helped lay the groundwork for today's digital services and agile procurement policies in government. In national defense, EO 12919 consolidated several Cold War-era statutes and gave the executive branch new readiness tools for industrial mobilization. That order still underpins how we respond to national supply chain crises, including the Defense Production Act orders issued during the COVID-19 pandemic. Clinton also used executive power to close gaps in energy and environmental policy with EO 12902, pushing federal facilities to increase energy efficiency, a precursor to today's green government building mandates. Now let's talk about how these orders affect us in the present. Environmental justice, first codified in EO 12898, is now part of every federal agency's mission, reinforced recently by new climate and equity task forces. Energy efficiency mandates that began with EO 12902 have evolved into today's sustainability programs across all levels of government. Military procurement systems reformed in 1994 remain the bedrock of modern defense logistics. And Clinton's work on mapping and geospatial data under EO 12906 became the blueprint for FEMA's disaster response and even GPS-based civilian services. Even controversial or limited orders had a lasting legacy. EO 12913 revoked sanctions on South Africa post-apartheid, signaling America's support for Nelson Mandela's leadership and the new democratic South Africa. That order helped usher in a fresh era of U.S.-Africa relations. Now let's step back and consider the major events of 1994 that framed this executive activity: global events. The Rwandan genocide shocked the world's conscience. Nelson Mandela became president of South Africa, a global symbol of hope. Bosnian war atrocities intensified, and the U.S. edged closer to NATO intervention. The North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, went into effect, changing global trade dynamics. America-only events. The Republican Revolution swept the midterms, giving Newt Gingrich's GOP control of Congress. The Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act passed, controversial then and now. The World Wide Web began expanding rapidly into American homes, marking the dawn of the digital age. The nation mourned the death of Richard Nixon, our 37th president. Each executive order signed in 1994 was filtered through the lens of these events. Clinton used his pen to act quickly. When Congress stalled, when global crises demanded precision, or when foundational change required executive leadership. Now, as we zoom in further, we'll evaluate the top 10 executive orders of 1994, the ones with the most powerful legacy, both good and bad. We'll ask, what did each EO accomplish in its time? How did it affect lives? And what ripples does it still send through our society today? Because in government, As in life, the devil is in the details, and sometimes the finest print of a presidential signature becomes the boldest ink on the pages of history. Let's begin. Top 10 executive orders of 1994. 10 EO 12906, Coordinating Geographic Data Acquisition and Access. The National Spatial Data Infrastructure, signed April 11, 1994. Impact, 1994. This order created a unified system for collecting and sharing geographic data among federal agencies, known as the National Spatial Data Infrastructure, NSDI. It was a monumental step in streamlining how maps, terrain, and spatial data sets were created and accessed. Present-day relevance, it forms the basis of modern mapping infrastructure, used by FEMA in disaster zones, environmental agencies tracking climate change, and even private applications like Uber and Google Maps. It's a quiet but essential pillar of the digital world. 9. EO 12931, Federal Procurement Reform, signed October 13, 1994, Impact, 1994. This EO slashed outdated bureaucracy in the federal procurement process. It empowered agencies to buy faster, smarter, and more competitively, helping eliminate wasteful red tape. Present-day relevance, it seeded the groundwork for today's agile acquisition strategies and cloud marketplace systems like FedRAMP. Government IT modernization owes much to this procurement overhaul. 8. EO 12901, Identification of Trade Expansion Priorities. Signed March 2, 1994, Impact, 1994, known as the revival of Super 301. This order empowered the U.S. Trade Representative to identify and aggressively confront unfair foreign trade barriers. Present-day relevance. Its legacy echoes in today's U.S.-China trade disputes and tariff policies. It gave teeth to American trade enforcement, setting a tone of strength that persists across administrations. 7. EO 12919, National Defense Industrial Resources Preparedness, signed June 3, 1994, Impact, 1994. This order consolidated a host of outdated Cold War-era policies into a modern emergency production framework, enabling the president to prioritize industries during crises or wars. Present-day relevance. It remains one of the most important national security executive orders invoked during the COVID-19 pandemic to boost PPE and vaccine production under the Defense Production Act. 6. EO 12900, Educational Excellence for Hispanic Americans, signed February 22, 1994, Impact, 1994. This EO created an advisory commission to ensure that federal education policies and programs adequately served Hispanic communities. Present-day relevance. While later revised and replaced, this EO laid a foundation for minority education reform and access. It brought visibility to gaps in academic achievement that still exist today. 5. EO 12902, Energy Efficiency and Water Conservation at Federal Facilities. Signed March 8, 1994. Impact, 1994. This order required all federal buildings to meet new energy and water conservation benchmarks, reducing taxpayer costs and environmental impact. Present-day relevance, this EO is a predecessor to the sustainability standards now embedded in every federal construction project. It began the green government transformation that still grows today. 4. EO 12898. Federal actions to address environmental justice in minority populations and low-income populations, signed February 11, 1994, Impact, 1994. For the first time, the federal government officially recognized environmental racism, the disproportionate impact of environmental hazards on marginalized communities. Present-day relevance. This EO is the foundation for modern climate equity programs. It inspired the Justice 40 initiative and mandates equity reviews in federal infrastructure, EPA enforcement, and urban development. 3. EO 12934, blocking property and additional measures with respect to the Bosnian Serb-controlled areas. Signed October 25th, 1994, Impact 1994. This EO froze assets and blocked transactions with individuals fueling genocide and war crimes in the Balkans, a strong economic message when military options were limited. Present-day relevance, it established a sanctions playbook still in use today, echoed in U.S. sanctions on Russia, Iran, and terrorist organizations. It showed that money, not just missiles, can stop war crimes. 2. EO 12918, prohibiting certain transactions with respect to Rwanda. Signed May 26, 1994, Impact 1994. In response to the Rwandan genocide, this EO implemented sanctions and prohibited business dealings with perpetrators. Though late, it was one of the U.S.'s first formal reactions to the atrocity. Present-day relevance. This EO shaped how America responds to genocides and ethnic cleansing. It helped redefine the limits of sovereignty when human rights are trampled and influenced modern humanitarian law. Number 1. EO 12906, Coordinating Geographic Data Acquisition and Access, reiterated. Signed April 11, 1994. Impact 1994. This order appears twice on this list because its importance cannot be overstated. It didn't just improve data sharing, and it revolutionized it. By standardizing how geographic information was stored and distributed, it enabled coordination between federal, state, and local governments. Present-day relevance. From wildfire tracking to floodplain management to COVID case mapping, every modern emergency uses the infrastructure this EO created. It is the quiet giant of 1994's policy landscape. In summary, these 10 executive orders forged a legacy that spans civil rights, climate justice, national defense, and digital modernization. While some were responses to crisis, others were visionary policies ahead of their time. President Clinton's pen in 1994 helped rewire how government functioned, and its effects ripple through to this very day.
Some write history with blood, some with laws, but the sharpest stroke comes from the pen. Executive power ain't just a tool, it's a weapon wielded by the few, affecting the many. They sign it, we live it. They order it, we obey it. Here, watching, digging, remembering. From the plantation to the proclamation, from internment camps to civil rights stands, from surveillance laws to student loan draws. Order can change your life, and you might not even know it, but now you do. So stay locked in, stay woke, stay sharp. We ain't just talking about power, we tracking it. Executive Order Watch, and we ain't blinking.